Hello, everybody, and welcome to the My BFF Business Leaders Podcast. This podcast is designed to focus the spotlight on leading voices throughout the world of business. From marketing and technology to energy and finance, this podcast will feature brilliant minds that are shaping the future of every industry. There has never been a better time to make more business friends forever, so let's get started.
You don't have to be gay. You don't have to be LGBTQ. Maybe you just want an unbiased, unjudgmental experience. I don't care what kind of lifestyle you're coming from. If you don't want people to judge you, this is really your group. It provides a safe space for folks to interact with professionals in a multitude of professions and seek service in a judgment-free environment.
On this episode of the My BFF Business Leaders Podcast, we are joined by the CEO of the LGBTQ Real Estate Alliance, Ryan Weyandt. Ryan is a transcendent mind that has always looked to positively impact the greater good. In just a few short months leading the charge with his current role at LGBTQ Real Estate Alliance, he has accomplished exactly this. The Alliance has grown exponentially and features chapters all throughout the United States and are quickly looking to expand across international borders. Ryan delves into his professional journey, discusses the Alliance's recent success, and describes the envisioned plans for this organization's future in this episode. So let's dive right into it. Hey Ryan, how are you doing today?
Good, Colton. Happy to be here. Thank you for the opportunity. Looking forward to talking. How are you?
Good. Can't complain. Everybody's safe and healthy. So yeah, appreciate you taking the time to join us today too. We've been looking forward to this interview. And by this time already, our audience has kind of already learned a little about you through our introduction. But to officially begin, would you just take a second to kind of tell our listeners a little about yourself personally?
Yeah. I love when people say, tell me about you. It feels like flash dating, right? Well, I have 35 years to choose from. So I've been a resident of the Twin Cities my whole life. That being said, I am very well traveled. I have been blessed to have been able to travel and spend some duration of time in all 50 states other than Hawaii, but that one's on the bucket list. And we're going to knock it off sooner than later. And I've done some international travel too. It's a passion. I love getting out of town, seeing new things. Married to my husband, Michael, it'll be 1 year on New Year's Eve. We've been together for going on 5. And we have a hybrid dog. She is a golden mountain dog, a golden retriever Bernese mountain dog mix. She's a 98-pound lap dog. So she thinks she's a lap dog anyhow. But we live in the Twin Cities. I've been in St. Paul in some capacity for 15 years, went to college and got 2 bachelor's and a master's degree here. It's great having the 4 seasons. I don't like winter, but I put up with it because our fall and our summer is incredible.
I was going to say, if somebody that doesn't like winter living in Minnesota would be a bit difficult.
The novelty wears off around the middle of January when the wind and the ice and, you don't have the holidays really anymore. Michael and I, my husband and I, make a point to celebrate everything we can. And that's just who we are and how we were raised. So every holiday is something, whether it's the Grammys or the Oscars or Mardi Gras, we traditionally have always had house parties for those things. And I think as a Minnesotan, as a Northerner, that's kind of how you pull yourself through the winter. So it'll be interesting to see how we survive. This will be a long winter.
Yeah. That's saying something for sure. And back to the travel aspect then, since you're not a big winter guy, do you always travel like warm destinations or you guys mix it up there too?
It's interesting. So my father is a national sales director for a company based out of Florida and travels for a living. He's done it for almost 40 years and he's got the schedule down pat. He does it by car, believe it or not. He does all 50 states and 6 Canadian provinces in a year's span. And he's had time to master it. So we typically follow a version of his itinerary when we're traveling. And we'll do the north in the summer and the south in the winter. In fact, despite COVID, we had been home for so long. I didn't want to celebrate my birthday. Turned 35 this year. I just wasn't feeling the energy. I didn't want to have one of those car parades. And pretend like I was enjoying myself. So we got out of town, and originally I had said, let's go to Portland or Seattle or something out on the West Coast. The pricing was out of control, and then the civil unrest at the time in the cities, just and then the fires. So I said, let's just look at Alaska. And we ended up, I kid you not, Colton, we looked at trips on Monday, we booked on Tuesday, we flew on Thursday. Nice. And we spent 10 days up in Alaska. We rented a car, booked Airbnbs ahead of time. It was an incredible experience. And it was in the 70s at the end of August in Alaska. It was absolutely gorgeous. We put on 1,500 miles over 10 days and got to see just about all the things we wanted to.
Is there one destination outside of Hawaii that's just kind of clawing at you to get there up on the bucket list, the number one overall right now?
My favorite city aesthetically in the country is Charleston.
Okay.
Between being on the water and just the old town feel, just amazing. But our honeymoon, which we actually delayed because of COVID, everything got delayed because of COVID, which we'd like to, as soon as we're welcome back to the European Union, we're going to book it. But we are going to the Canary Islands for 2 weeks. And I think that is my number one bucket place. And I convinced him to do it. It didn't take a lot of convincing, obviously, but I think New Zealand is a very short stop behind that. So.
That's awesome. Hopefully you can get there sooner rather than later. But yeah, as we were talking about before the call, there's just no time telling. But wish you guys the best in that trip too. That'll be a hell of a vacation. Yeah.
A lot of flying, and I'm sure there's going to be a boat in there somewhere, but got so excited about it.
Yeah, you should be for sure. And now jumping over kind of to the professional side of things, we'll get into your work as the CEO of LGBTQ Real Estate Alliance later on in the conversation. But I was first curious, what are some of the other professional roles that you've taken on thus far in your career?
Yeah, I've had quite, I call it opportunity. I have a very interesting resume. I went to college for psychology. Actually, I started political science, but I don't think anyone ever graduates what they declare as a freshman. So I have degrees in psychology and business management, and I did my master's work in organizational development leadership. I don't know that I graduated in 2003 from high school and 2007 from college. And at that point in time, during the wars in the Middle East, the economy was suffering. You were happy to get a job graduating. It was not what we had been promised, that you're going to graduate and land a $50,000 a year job in the industry of your choice. So there were some life lessons learned during that process. And I also at that point in time was struggling with what I wanted to do. Did I want to be a sellout and go work for a major corporation somewhere? Did I want to try and do my own thing? Did I want to find a small business? Long story short, I hopped around small business for about 5.5 years. You get in right from college and you put your time in. I worked up to middle management about 3 years into my career, and at the end of the 5 years, I spent a run as operations manager for an international security consulting company. It was an absolute riot. Learned a lot of life lessons. The guy who owned the CEO who owned the company at the time was, at the time I thought he was just a maniac, and now I have a little bit more respect for some of the things that he did. Now I can see the why behind it. Hopefully I communicate better with my team, but that was the first chunk of what I consider my professional life. Unfortunately, I got pink slipped from that role. Our largest client ended up coming in and buying out the company, and our largest client was in Copenhagen, and they replaced the full management team with the European management team. So didn't get much severance, but was able to take some money, take some time. Blew it on a nice vacation in California for too long, to be honest with you. And my dad called me while I was in California. I remember it. And he said, I don't know how long you think you could stay out there, but you're going to have to get back into the workforce at some point in time. I said, yeah, you're kind of a buzzkill. So I called some folks. And at that point in time, you use your network, right? Rely on your network from college. And I got in at Wells Fargo, and I got in as a loan processor. It was not glamorous. It's a thankless job. And I have nothing but respect for folks who work on the operations side of mortgage. And I went through a variation of roles until I landed in sales. So let's see, I was an underwriter. I actually trained sales agents for about 3 years nationally at Wells Fargo. And then I landed a job as a private mortgage banker. So dealing mortgage, a mortgage banker for more of the affluent end of the bank's clients. Loved it. Absolute riot. It was a great job, great clients. You're an independent producer at that point in time. So you come and go as you please. You just hit your goals and you keep producing, and your boss stays off your back, and things are good. Unfortunately, timing wasn't good, and Wells Fargo had some reputational stuff going on nationally that I'm sure folks remember very well, but it had a serious, dramatic impact on consumer confidence at the time. And it impacted my business personally. I took a huge financial hit because my clients were opting to leave the bank. So after fighting that, the inevitability was that I just would have been more financially sound elsewhere. So I took an offer from U.S. Bank, which is we call it a super regional, based out of the Twin Cities here. They had been recruiting me for a while, and I just spent the last 3 years working as a loan officer with U.S. Bank. Just retired from the industry on November 13th for this new endeavor. So,
and it's pretty fascinating to me that it kind of you pivoted into the housing, pivoted into the real estate industry that we'll get into later on, kind of just based off of your network, like you put it. But as you progressed through education, what was kind of your dream role, or what was your envisioned plan?
Yeah, and it's funny. You're absolutely right. The irony there. If I could write myself a letter, had I known then what I know now, I would have gone to school for commercial or residential real estate. The University of St. Thomas, which is sister school to Notre Dame, actually, is one of the best real estate schools in the nation. And I graduated with a psychology degree and then got into the industry. Dream job. What did I want to do? Man, I wanted to work on the Hill. I wanted to go work for a senator and impact change. I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to work policy. I wanted to work advocacy. I always wanted to be involved in some aspect of the government and impacting change. And then, as you do, you get older and you get jaded, and you start to understand the system a little bit more. And maybe you watch now House of Cards too often, and maybe disenchanted with the process a little bit, to tell you the truth. And like I said, then you graduate, and it's a free for all, and you just take what you can get.
You never know where life's going to take
right.
you. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. Well, I think it's, safe to say now that you're definitely making a change. And as your role as the CEO at the LGBTQ Real Estate Alliance, can you talk to our audience a little bit about how you landed that role and what ultimately came about that?
Yeah, listen, I don't know if there's a higher purpose or fate or things just happen by chance, but the flow of events through my life, I honestly feel has kind of all built up to what I'm doing right now. And I feel like I'm probably 3% of the population that can say that I'm actually in my 30s in the career that I literally would have written this as a book as to what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I just enjoy every aspect of it, and I'm being compensated for it. You can't ask for better. And I would say it's better than retirement, because what the hell are you going to do if you retire? So, it satisfies purpose as well, which is nice. The Alliance, it's fascinating, really. We launched publicly on October 1st. So we're a little over 2 months into this now. The process, I call it, started in May, in fact, of this year. And about 52 of us got together as the result of a mass resignation over fundamental and ethical differences with the former organization. And you put that many people together in a Zoom chat, and it's like herding cats. But I had sought some advice from some counsel at some very reputable organizations around the country, and they said, well, you need to put a steering committee together and you need to decide what the next steps are. What does this look like? Take your time, do it right, check the boxes, and organize, 2.0. And that's what the Alliance is. It's an organization that was created by its members, for its members, I think with an elevated purpose and ability to deliver on its goals of advocacy, educating, networking. Obviously, we're there to, as a 501c6, we're going to get the ability to help lobby, which is big for us right now. And I'm sure we'll touch on that a little bit later as far as purpose is concerned. But um, a year ago, I never in a million years would have told you that this would have been where I was. I wanted to do something comparable, and I was the executive director of a foundation for about 11 months prior to this. I had not left the bank because my confidence was low and uh, in the direction of the organization. And, that ends up being a blessing that I retained my job with the bank because it got me through to where I am now. So I had always wanted to get into this space from a philanthropic and nonprofit side of the house to work for advocacy, to work for members, to make the people happy. Mm-hmm. It's we joke it's kind of like being an ethical politician. You don't have to sell your soul to make a difference. You're still working for people. We have a member base; those are my constituents, effectively. It's been a heck of a ride. We threw together. I shouldn't say threw together. We comprehensively organized bylaws and governing structure and documents and now we have a full-fledged organization. It's a Minnesota nonprofit corporation recognized by the federal government as a 501c6 nonprofit organization. We are just shy of 500 members in 2 months and have captured some major sponsorships from some of the industry's largest companies. So extremely flattered and grateful for the support that we've had.
That's amazing. And obviously, congratulations to you from the fulfillment side and just feeling like you are kind of in the perfect role. It's like you said, it's something that not a lot of people get to experience in their lifetime. And for you to be doing so and making a major impact, especially just at kind of the start of it as you guys are peaking, is really exciting to see.
Yeah, I mean, what else can you ask for, right? Mm-hmm. Especially right now. So we're, 9 months into COVID, people are losing their jobs. The economy is not stable. The social climate, the political climate, I mean, you name it, right? We're going through it. To be in a great relationship with someone who loves me, have a great job that I love, to have my health, there's really nothing to complain about.
Mm-hmm. Which is amazing given the times, like you're saying. So, yeah. And going kind of back to the immense growth that you guys have had in these 2 months, is there anything that you can kind of pinpoint and it derives from to have the 500 members in just that little time span?
Absolutely. Yep. Surround yourself with the right people. Mm-hmm. I can look at our leadership team and I can go down in my head. I'm not going to do it verbally, but I can go down the list. Everyone from our staff to our elected governance officials, our volunteers who, we have, somewhere in the 60s number of chapter presidents nationally who are all volunteer. It's a part-time job. It really mm-hmm. is to run a chapter. And then the members beyond that, every single person contributes. It's incredible. It's overwhelming almost. I think you and I had a conversation a while back about how, my new war is against my inbox, constantly mm-hmm. trying to dig out. And that's a blessing because members reach out as they join. Mm-hmm. So it gives me the ability to interact with everyone, mm-hmm. Which otherwise I don't, how do you touch that many people? How do you let your members know when you're seen as the one in the ivory tower that you're really not, that you're on the ground level pushing paper too? Mm-hmm. So it's been a crazy experience, but I'll just go back to saying that everyone on the executive team complements each other, and you couldn't have written a more perfect business review on how to run an organization. as the combination of talent that we've put together with this organization. So I am truly blessed and honored to be surrounded by folks who complement my shortcomings, and vice versa too, I think.
That's great. And from the member side, for kind of our audience members that might not know exactly how a community like this would work, and you touched upon this a little bit earlier, but what are like the exact benefits? If somebody wanted to become a member of the Alliance, what exactly could they look for outside of the networking aspect, so to speak?
Yeah, what do we do? Great question. Because it's not like, it's not like the Red Cross. We're not just we need money, have a drive, write a check, get a mug. That's not the type of nonprofit that we are. We are a membership services nonprofit. So think of your chambers of commerce, your professional associations, that kind of stuff. So, your National Association of Flight Attendants. It's not a labor union. So it's not like the teachers union. But it is an organized trade association that focuses on a specific industry or a culmination of related industries to try and solve for a larger problem. In our situation, there are several problems that we're trying to solve for. First of all, the home ownership rate in the country is at an all-time high, but within the LGBTQ segment of the population is disproportionately low. It's in the 40s. And we're trying to explore why. And certainly there are some factors that go into that. A sustainable lifestyle, which can include a relationship, a secure job for income. Those are all things that the LGBTQ community was literally in the last 5 years just granted civil rights protections on. Before that, there was no guarantee that you weren't going to get fired from your job for having a photo of your same-sex spouse. Or that you could get married. So, combining incomes legally and using that for a loan application, intrinsically, that's going to help rise home ownership rates. And we're seeing that since these things have been federally enacted, I think all judicially. So, in 27 states, Colton, the LGBTQ community can still be legally discriminated against in the housing space. That's a problem. And most of those are southern states. But, if Jill and John Johnson don't want to sell their house to my husband and I because we're a gay couple, they can shred the purchase agreement right in front of us and not be held contractually obligated, which is a shame because it's the exact same way in the rental space and in the lending space. There are no protections federally for the LGBTQ community. So that is the need. What is the benefit? It depends what side of the fence you're on. If you are a consumer, whether you don't have to be gay, you don't have to be LGBTQ. Maybe you just want an unbiased, unjudgmental experience. I don't care what kind of lifestyle you're coming from. If you don't want people to judge you, this is really your group. It provides a safe space for folks to interact with professionals in a multitude of professions and seek service in a judgment-free environment. If you are a customer, if you are a professional, it gives you the ability to, do a lot of things. There are networking abilities all throughout the world because we are just moving into the international space, kind of scary, but exciting. Amazing networking, obviously referral and lead generation. If you're client facing, we provide education. We provide advocacy platform and priorities in Washington. And it provides a community. It's not just a professional organization. I got to tell you, it really is a family.
Yeah. And do you guys have a kind of a specific mantra or branded message that you firmly believe in as an organization?
Well, it depends who you're at. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, of course. I say that tongue in cheek, right? Because we are a 501c6, which is interesting because that gives us the ability to take a position on candidates, to actually lobby on issues and lobby legislation, which a charity and nonprofit, a C3, cannot do. So just having been presented with the opportunity to actually have an opinion has been an interesting experience coming from previously having to hold my tongue all the time. But yeah, sure. We were built on the foundations of community and collaboration and equality, equity and ethics, inclusion and transparency. So I guess the culmination of that just hopefully cultivates a genuine experience and shows that it's a genuine organization.
Absolutely.
Our goal is to create a world free of housing discrimination. I mean, it's kind of audacious, but it's that simple.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope I put myself out of a job. Real honestly, it would be the best day of my life.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not the reality of it. After we get housing equality, then the goal shifts to start building wealth within the LGBTQ community, and you do that through home ownership.
Mm-hmm. And you guys obviously have a very strong base nationally. You said you're pushing in a little bit into the international space as well. But where are some locations across the country that your chapters reside in currently?
So look at the major sport franchise cities. We probably have a foothold, a pretty substantial foothold in those cities. But then we have had an interesting couple months here in that we're getting a desire to form a presence in locations we didn't think there was demand. So Boise, Idaho launched a chapter last week. Des Moines, Iowa launched a chapter. Lafayette is lobbying to launch a chapter with us. So there are geographies that, it doesn't surprise me that now society has become a little bit more inclusive and folks are starting to feel comfortable living their authentic lives. Mm-hmm. So there's demand for it. I can't tell you where we're going to be in a year. I wish I could, but this is unprecedented what we're seeing as far as a desire to establish a presence.
Mm-hmm. And how about on the international side? Is there a specific strategy or plan kind of to progress outside of the U.S. border?
Yeah, honestly, that was in my 5-year plan when I wrote our strategic vision for the board of directors, and I'm having to face that, I should say. I don't want to look at it as a burden. It's a great opportunity. But 3 months on the job, and I'm having to address that already. Mm-hmm. We were very, very fortunate to enter into our first relationship, formally, our first corporate relationship with Engel & Volkers on a sponsor level. And they are a very reputable, more on the luxury side, global real estate house. And they have a very, very wide global presence. And through that relationship, because it's a global company, and let me clarify, Engel & Volkers Americas sponsored us. So that's Canada and Mexico and the United States, I believe. However, they are all over Europe. They're in Asia. They're in Australia. And we've heard from some of those markets just as a result of the press release and the media that's gone out. Specifically Europe and Canada. And I'm happy to say that we're in the process right now of actually developing the infrastructure to be able to handle membership before we offer it, obviously. But hopefully by Q2 of 2021, we will be in a position to start onboarding folks from Europe.
That's fantastic. And kind of staying on that same kind of future plans, obviously, like we were talking about before, so much can change given the times and given the pandemic. But are there any kind of events that you guys currently have planned for 2021 or major things that our audience should look out for from the Alliance?
Yeah. So, this isn't your dad's organization, right? It's there are some real forward-thinking folks that are at the helm steering this, and we've had some incredible idea generation. LGBTQ Pride Month is a huge thing in the community, and in the housing space, it was never really observed. Well, we're going to change that. We are going to do formal recognition throughout the country. Some of it's going to be virtual. It is going to turn into one of our destination events annually, where we pick a city and hold a Pride event during Pride Month, which happens to also be National Housing Month, month of June, that is. So we're going to do a big Pride, and I don't know that it's been announced yet, but we've already secured a title sponsor on that. So we're very excited about it. The other big thing that we announced a couple weeks ago is our national conference. That's going to be in the fall of the year. Save the date, if you will. It's going to be the week of September 20th in fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada. So looking forward to that, especially now that these vaccines seem promising, and it is realistic, I believe, now to hope that we're going to be in person around a pool having some great dialogue in September.
Hmm.
So those are the two big ones. We have a policy and advocacy summit in DC, which is heavily predicated around the ability to actually meet in person with your legislators. However, we just don't know yet. The congressional calendar hasn't been released yet, and we don't know what that's going to look like. And if those folks aren't in DC, it doesn't make a lot of sense to bring everyone out there or attempt to bring everyone out there to try and meet with them. So I think at that point, that event will probably be virtual as opposed to in person. Still waiting out to get the legislative, or I beg your pardon, the congressional schedule.
And where can our audience go to learn more about the LGBTQ Real Estate Alliance?
Yeah, so it's realestatealliance.org. Okay. And it's we tried to make it, as easy as possible.
I think you accomplished that. So yeah, I would highly encourage everybody to go check that out, especially based off of kind of all the attributes that Ryan's described here. It's an awesome community. It's taking off and taking off in a very fast manner, as Ryan described. So major things to come in 2021.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there is nothing but opportunity. We've got some huge initiatives that we honestly, and I think every CEO is their own biggest company cheerleader, but they're going to change the way that fair housing is done in this country. And I firmly believe that.
That's amazing. And yeah, power to you. Congratulations again, Ryan. And now I have to put you on the spot, because to close every one of our shows, we do a rapid fire round of personal questions.
Okay.
So I'm going to fire off 5 questions. Just first thing that comes to mind.
Give me one sec. I got it. Let me get ready for this.
Prepare properly. Hydrate.
Prep here. Okay. At your leisure.
Right. So question number 1, we start the same process for everybody. What's the first car that you ever owned?
It was a 1992 blue Dodge Shadow. My mother drove it for 10 years. It had 235,000 miles on it.
So you take it back in a heartbeat if you could?
Not for a second. Yeah.
So question number 2, do you have an all-time favorite quote?
Yeah, I do, actually. Let me show it to you. It's right there.
Wow.
You probably can't see it, or you probably can't read it.
We can't, yeah.
It's a shamrock, and the words "be good," and they were lifted off of the last card that my grandmother wrote before she passed to me.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's on my wrist there. It's kind of a guiding principle. Be good.
That's great. That's fantastic. What's the most recent book that you've recently read?
I can show you.
We're just doing a show and tell now on the podcast.
If we're not going scripted, there it is, right there. I'm just, I have a whole wall of books, and a lot of them are memoirs, a lot of them are biographies, but I don't do well reading fiction. I don't have the attention span for it. And I don't do well reading nonfiction, to tell you the truth. A lot of what I do is audio. But I have a thing for reading the thoughts and ongoings of folks who, for some reason or another, have published books historically. Whether they've been massive failures or massive successes, I think every one of them is a lesson.
Hey, I'm in the same boat as with you too. Yeah, I can't get into the fiction aspect particularly. Is there an all-time favorite book that you have?
Yeah, actually. So I was looking down the line here, and honest to God, this is how it goes. I've got Pope John Paul II. I've got Gandhi up here. I've got Rudy Giuliani, 2 of Donald Trump's business books, Bill Clinton, Ronald Reagan, Cynthia Lennon. The one that my favorite read up here was Keith Richards' book, Life. Okay. Absolutely amazing. Stunning read. Mm-hmm. It's that thick, but you don't know how this guy's still alive by the time you get to the end of it.
Yeah. I'll have to check that out. Yeah, I haven't heard of that one before.
He's amazing. And I love the Stones.
Yeah. So, question number 4 then, and I don't think you can show me this one. What is the most recent TV show or movie you've watched?
Oh, gosh.
with COVID,
recent
we've been asking everybody what they've been
when did I watch it, or recent that's come out?
I'd say that you've watched it. With COVID and everybody binge watching shows and movies right now.
So we're watching The Crown right now on Netflix, and I think we've got 3 more episodes. Otherwise, Mandalorian we watch habitually every Friday when it comes out. And then I have annual traditions. Every year I watch The West Wing, which my husband is sick of after 5 years of watching the entire show, all 11 seasons. Yeah.
And the final question to get in the holiday spirit a little bit, what is the number one thing on your Christmas list?
I can't tell you because it's the number one thing on my husband's Christmas list, and he'd hear me if I told you because I already bought it.
Okay.
And it sounds really pompous, but I promise it's not. It was very affordable and we spoiled ourselves this year. Yeah. We bought a home with an outdoor pool, which in Minnesota you can only use for 4 months. So you make the most out of it.
We can foreshadow it in the next episode.
I got when does this air? Just don't make sure he sees it. I bought an outdoor home theater system.
Awesome. Wow. That'll be sweet. Oh. For those 4 months, yeah, you got to set them all
You
up.
got to, yeah.
All right. Well, I thank you again, Ryan, for taking the time. Is there any kind of final words you'd like to add for our audience here?
Colton, you folks have been amazing to us, and it's been a pleasure. The work relationship and the personal side of things has been enjoyable. I appreciate the time today and being here with you, and obviously the subscribers and folks that tune in. More than happy to talk to anyone. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me through the website. My contact information's on there. And like you said, the best way to learn about it is to dive into the website, realestatealliance.org. It's all right there. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks again, Ryan.
Take care.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of the My BFF Business Leaders Podcast with Ryan Weyandt. This podcast is designed to give the world a behind-the-scenes look into the lives of unique business leaders shaping their industry, and Ryan Weyandt is doing exactly that. This is your host, Colton Hauer. Keep looking forward.